This Thing Called Life is a podcast dedicated to exploring the twists, turns, and transformative moments that shape our lives and the lives of others. It is a space where we can share our experiences so we can learn, grow, and empower change. You're listening to This Thing Called Life. I am your host, Atlas. Today, I talk about the power of solitude, what solitude means to me and some misconceptions, the benefits, and a short story around solitude. I begin this episode talking about balance and how my perception of solitude has changed over the years. I've grown to just love and adore it. I need to remind myself that I can't just be alone, that I also have to be with people. And, if I've been trying to find the balance of, just loving, just being alone and being in the woods or going out for hikes and just like being by myself, but also, being reminded that I also need to connect with and be supported by other people. That's been a recurring theme in my life. But I used to be terrified of solitude, and I wouldn't call it solitude at that time. I would call it like a loneliness or being alone. And I was terrified of being alone. That's how I viewed being with myself or being by myself. There was a negative context around it. And it was, loneliness or, isolation. So yeah, my relationship with and my perception of being alone or being by myself has changed. And again, I'm trying to find the balance. But to, I guess, start things off is, I'm going to define solitude and differentiate it from loneliness or solitude. So I would say that the difference between solitude and loneliness is intention and connection. We can become disconnected from people, places, and things. We tend to isolate when we are lonely. We could be, or at least I felt like I could be in a crowded place and be in the middle of Times Square and feel nothing, feel empty, feeling like alone. I feel like loneliness can come with sadness and maybe depression and anxiety. For me, there was a lot of fear. But the beautiful part about this is that the more we connect with ourselves and the more we, change the relationship with quote unquote being alone, the more we connect with ourselves, the more we begin to connect with other people. And I feel like that connection with self and, I feel like that's what slowly turns isolation into solitude. And, you know, I remember just, I was terrified of being by myself or being with myself because, you know, when I was with other people, I was distracted and I was just finding all these ways to distract myself. And it's because I just had terrible thoughts about myself. When I was alone, those thoughts would sort of surface. And so when I was, with other people allowed me to kind of escape in some sense. I needed to be with myself and in a gentle way and, reflect and let go. And so, yeah, my perspective or my relationship with being alone has changed. And for me, solitude is disconnecting from work and people and the internet and social media, TV, electronics, so I can connect with myself in these different parts and aspects of myself. I guess in some sense, I'm disconnecting from my external environment so I can connect with my internal one. Yeah, and I get to, part of it is like, meditation too. When I'm meditating and I'm able to be be with myself and, watch my thoughts as they come and go. So the next thing that I wanted to, so that's a little bit about at least my interpretation of solitude and loneliness and isolation. I feel like as we learn and grow, our relationship with it can change over time and we can, evolve to appreciate solitude. Um, and it can be a wonderfully healing experience when we are with ourselves and by ourselves. Yeah, and there was I'm trying to think of some moments in my life where I was embracing solitude, and there's a couple. There's actually many, but I don't want to I could spend, I guess, hours talking about all the times I've been, appreciated being alone. But the two that come up, and one of them is a funny story, but the one that's coming to my mind is when I got my own apartment. I had been, maybe it was about like a sober for like around a year or just under or just over. and I had moved to Baltimore, and I had I had this job, great job, and I was by myself in this apartment, and I just remember dancing by myself, and I just remembered how much fun I was having, and it was just by myself. I didn't need anyone, anything. It was music, right? That's all I needed was music. And I just remember it was a memorable moment of just like me just enjoying my life and where I was. And I just was just having a wonderful experience with nothing but music. And it's something that I'll always remember. The other time is this was also, I was living in Baltimore, so I was working in research, and I was working from in front of a computer for, I mean, it just over 40 hours a week. And eventually I just needed to like disconnect. So I got um for me I got an Airbnb in West Virginia. And I mean, this was a place where uh, there was on top of a hill in West Virginia in the boonies. I mean, this place was in the middle of nowhere, and there's no running water, there's no electricity. It was like this, I guess, stone hut on top of this hill. And I'm like, perfect. No running water, no electricity. Sign me up, please. This sounds fantastic. So I get the Airbnb. But the one thing that I don't realize is I'm so used to technology that like I didn't print out any directions. I've got, GPS, and so I'm driving there, and I realize like some of my GPS is not working, or it's going in and out, because I mean this spot in West Virginia, I mean, it was in the middle of nowhere. I'm not sure if there was internet in this part of West Virginia. So it was quite a journey to even get to this place. So I'm on my way, and I'm trying to like I think I have some sort of like email and directions of where to go. But this place is huge. This is like, I want to say it was like 100 acres. It was an equine preserve or something like that. Um I just don't know where to go. And there's no, I didn't really have any directions of like, this is the place I need to um to enter in, or to uh yeah, where to start, and where this place was. So I'm just like aimlessly going around this area, and I look to see what I believe is like the main farmhouse. So I turn in, and there's no cars in the driveway. The doors and the windows are open. Um, and there's like animals walking around. There's horses, but there's no people. There's no one. And I'm like, getting out of the car. I'm like looking around the window, like trying to peep around, like, hey, is anyone home? It's definitely the address. Like I'm in the right area. I just need to find like a human being to show me where to go. So no one's answering. It's there's no one there. There's animals, but there's just no human beings. So I turn around, and I go to another place, another house that is, again, it's on the property. This property is massive. And so I get out of the car, and I start approaching the house, and all of a sudden these three small to medium sized dogs just come attacking me. And I mean, they were like aiming right for me, and they were, they wanted to cause harm to me. See it in their eyes. I could feel, their anger towards me. I don't know what I did to them, but they were like, "We want you to get the fuck out of here." So yeah, I'm getting attacked by these three dogs, and it's, they're like small, medium. They're big enough where, it was really annoying. And there's three of them, so it's not like I could, I would shoo one away, and as I'm shooing one away, the other one is, like, going around behind me and attacking my ankles, and so I'm just playing this shoo game with them, trying to shoo one, and the other one comes, and I mean, it was just ridiculous. And at the point, I'm just trying to get to the front door. That's all I wanna do. I just wanna get from my car to the front door to knock on the door, and I can't. I'm just like, why am I doing this? Why am I am getting attacked. I need to go back to my car. So I go back to my car, and I go to another house, and this is like it's seeming like a neighbor's house, and I knock on the door, and for some reason I just don't, in my head, I'm just like, I just don't want someone with a shotgun to come out I don't know why I had that thought, but I was like, I just I just don't want that to happen. I knock on the door and someone answers. It was, a young woman, and I'm like, telling her my situation, and she was like, "Yeah, we know that, like, they rent this, cabin and stuff like that that's on top of the hill." She's like, "Let me get up." She's like, "Let me give them a call." And she comes out with, like, the, white pages, I think it was, and this was 2019 or 2018, and I'm just like, "What year are we in? Like, who is using the white pages to and landlines to connect?" And she was calling the house, but she's like, no one's answering. Also, as I'm leaving, the husband arrives in a truck, and I'm like, "Please don't have a shotgun." Luckily, I mean, he probably did, I don't know, but he was nice, but I just had a fear that, like, someone was gonna, I don't know, point a shotgun at me. Uh, so I leave the house, and I go back to the I've been, like, circling and going, uh, and it's starting to get late, and it's starting to get dark. And I need to find in the middle of nowhere in West Virginia, and I need to find some sort of shelter. And I've been going in circles around this property for about an hour. So I finally go back to this what I believe to be the main farmhouse. And I'm like, sort of desperate. And the doors are open, the windows are open, and I'm like, "You know what? Fuck it, I'm going in. I have to, like, I've gotta figure something out." So I decide to, and I don't know why I decided to do it this way, but I go around the back side, and I start entering into the house. So basically, I think I just did a B&E, and I walk into the house, and I felt like I was in the movie Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because I felt like, I don't know, something terrible was gonna like, someone was gonna come with an axe or something, and, there's, like, animals walking around, so I'm, like, tiptoeing around, waiting for, Jason to come out of the closet or something like that. All of a sudden, I hear this, and I'm like, "What the f" and I look down, and it's just, like, this dog that's maybe 20 years old. I mean, this dog was old, and this dog just kinda, like, huffed at me and, like, went back to go to sleep, and I was like, "Alright, thank God." And I look around, there's no one here. There is no one inside this house, and I see there's a stove, and there's something that's still cooking, and there was a note that was left to someone, and it looked like someone left in a hurry. I don't know what's happening, but no one was there, so I left, and again, I just circle. I finally take this one left, down this one road. I made a left instead of a right. And finally, long story short, I get to the place. I finally get to this place. It's on a beautiful hill, and I spend the next 2 to 3, 2 nights, 3 days, just no electricity, no running water, and I mean, it was a wonderful experience for many reasons. So, yeah, I finally get to the cabin, and it's a wonderful experience. I mean, I was doing meditation, I was writing, and it was just, I mean, it was the a perfect, escape from work and technology, and it was, yeah, I went hiking, and I journaled, and I was writing, playing music, and I was just with myself, and it was a wonderful, wonderful time, and, I was just talking with a coworker, and I might try to do it again. So I guess, another thing I wanted to mention is that there's, like, we think that, sometimes when we think of solitude, that there's really, you know, only one way to do it, and I guess I want to make sure to acknowledge that there's so many ways we can find solitude. One is be intentional, right? Are intentionally trying to set aside time, and we're intentional that we want to be with, these parts or aspects with ourselves. So we're intentional that we want to be by ourselves, and, like, I want to be with these parts with me. I want to be with me, but it doesn't have to be like a week long retreat. It doesn't have to be these, like, silent retreats, even though that's something that uh, I would totally do. Mine was more of a personal silent retreat when I was up on the hill. I mean, silent. It was playing music, but that was about it. But what I'm saying is, like, different. Solitude can look different for many people. and we can do it in different ways. I think going camping is a great way to be in solitude. And sometimes it's just 5 minutes. We go someplace that's quiet that we're just with ourselves, for 5, 10 minutes, and we write and we meditate. But I think that there's a lot there that's for us when we're in solitude. There's other experiences where solitude has come up. There's one when I went to a show and a concert. But at any rate, there's many ways that we can be alone and be with ourselves. We can rent an Airbnb. We can go camping. Of course, we can do retreats. But sometimes it's just simply waking up early and being intentional and setting aside time to be with ourselves. And I think remarkable things can happen when we do that. The other piece that I wanted to discuss is I guess, like, fears and misconceptions. And, sometimes I feel like when we are in solitude, well, there's like this, fear of missing out, and that people are missing out, that, if you're not with a whole bunch of people, you don't go to the party. And I just think that's, I mean, I understand it and it makes sense, but I think there's balance. I think it's wonderful to be with ourselves, but there's a lot of misconceptions about being solitude, and one of them is also maybe like someone's antisocial, right? And I'm sure there's instances where maybe that is happening, but there can't be like negative context around being by ourselves. And there's many ways that we can view solitude, and as long as there's balance and as long as we're intentionally doing it in a positive way, I think that's a wonderful gift we give ourselves, being alone with ourselves. The thing I wanted to talk about is what can we do when we're alone, and one of them is journaling and meditation. That has been an important part of my story. A lot of inspiration has happened when I've been by myself, been with myself. A lot of creativity comes up, and I end up writing poetry. So I think embracing solitude uh, is an important message to send, and instead of a negative context. Also, like, the other thing is like gardening. I think that can be a wonderful time that we can be with ourselves, be with nature. Painting, that's another thing that I'm trying to do more, is paint and be with myself and express myself at the same time. There's so many different ways that we can be in solitude. Again, it's being intentional. We're intentionally wanting to be with ourselves and in a particular way, meditating, journaling, writing, or painting. Yeah, I guess the last bit I wanted to do is to maybe see if we can, if you're listening or watching, to take a moment and to think about a time when you truly felt you were at peace, or while you were alone, and maybe what were you doing? How did it make you feel? And how can you recreate that experience in your life now? And again, you don't have to go right into a weekend or a week retreat. It could be camping, scheduling like a 1 day camping trip, or it can be something just in 10 minutes with coffee or tea in the morning. But I think it's important to create these experiences and like I said, being intentional about them. Yeah. The other piece is, I have I have get I have received a lot of insightful information when I've taken the time to be by myself. Or there's been like a lot of times where I've been inspired when I've been like alone, um, or have been by myself, or been in solitude. I guess these distractions from TV, movies, and my phone can is distracting me from these wonderful parts of myself, but it's also distracting me from like inspiration. Again, I feel as though we all have the answers to our own life. That's one of the main reasons why I do hypnotherapy, is to guide people through that process and guide people to uncover their own answers. And I think when we give ourselves an opportunity to be with ourselves, we can uncover some insightful moments of clarity. about ourselves or about a problem we feel like we've been having. And, we can listen better to our inner voice and our inner guide, and we're not distracted by external things. And it's is very easy to get distracted today than it ever has been. So yeah, I wanted to talk to have this topic around solitude, because it's been an important piece of my journey, and I wanted to share that with you because I hope that you all can find time to give yourself some solitude, and yeah, just see the magic that happens when we take the time to be with ourselves. If you enjoyed this episode, you can support the show by liking, sharing, or subscribing wherever you're listening. You can find us online at thisthingcalledlife.center. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, visit thisthingcalledlife.center/contact. Until next time, thank you for listening and being with us on This Thing Called Life.